When we think about cities and climate change, we see cities as being a purely negative factor. It is my belief, however, that cities can be turned into valuable resources and tools in the fight against climate change, thereby turning a negative into a positive. Climate change is real. Not only is it real, it is the biggest environmental problem we have ever faced as a species. We can see its numerous effects taking a toll all over the world, from desertification of natural resources to rising sea levels, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better anytime soon. It seems that no matter where you look today, we are constantly being bombarded with reports telling us about the gloom and doom of climate change, with any bright light in the darkness few and far between. While these reports are accurate, they often fail to give advice on what can be done to alleviate the situation. Some scientists have argued that the answer to climate change lies within our past, claiming that by relying more on nature than technology, the effects of climate change will be lessened. For instance, living a life more akin to pre-industrial times would reduce resource consumption. This is an interesting idea that by regressing our way of life in the present, we would preserve our future. While I think the idea of primitivism has some merit, I feel that it is highly unlikely that everyone will give up the comforts of modern technology. For instance, how many people want to go back to using leaves instead of toilet paper? Or how about giving up their cars and smartphones? Not many? I didn't think so. Well, that leaves us in a bit of a problem. We want to fix climate change, but we also don't want to give up our way of life. It is times like this I am thankful for the sage advice my Uncle Grandpa used to give me. He used to say, "Sonny, there are two ways to solve a resource problem. You can either reduce consumption or get more resources." But wait, aren't we lacking resources? That's part of the problem of climate change, isn't it? That is true. However, some great people, including Jeffrey Leneweaver and Kevin Wilhelm, have found ways in which businesses can make money by going green, simultaneously increasing revenue and saving the environment. Normally, cities are seen as a burden when concerning climate change, as they produce a lot of the CO2 emissions in our atmosphere. According to the World Health Organization, cities contain the majority of the human population, so they aren't going to be going anywhere anytime soon. When taking some of the ideas from return on sustainability to the next level, it becomes possible to turn cities into literal green gold mines. The first step in order to achieve this goal is to reduce the amount of energy consumed by a city. This can be done by switching over to green technology in the form of efficient lighting, heating, and venting units, as well as switching cars to electric, biofuel, or hybrids, as well as requiring all new buildings to meet efficiency standards, retrofitting older buildings to do the same. A huge factor of CO2 emissions from a city comes from personal cars. Many cities in America after the 30s were originally built with cars in mind as the primary source of transportation. Note that back then gas was cheap and plentiful. Cities should therefore be retrofitted with public transportation as the priority. Now that we have reduced our energy consumption, the next step is to extract energy. Buildings themselves can be turned into solar generators by either covering existing buildings with solar panels or designing buildings out of new solar voltaic materials. Buildings can generate much of their own electricity in this way. Another booming green technology, like solar panels before it, wind generators can also be attached to buildings or set up in between. These wind generators would have the added benefit of not requiring sunlight. Therefore, in theory at least, they could be producing energy 24 hours a day. Surprisingly, climate change would actually boost the productivity of these windmills, as with climate change comes increased wind from storms. This fancy drawing is an invention from yours truly, and honestly there isn't anything like it so far, which goes to show that there's still a lot of green technology that hasn't been invented yet. This rain generator absorbs the energy of falling rain. While some cities like Seattle will get the most out of this system, every city will get the benefit of the invention's second purpose, extracting fresh water from the rain. A company by the name of Indiegogo has come up with the idea of turning roads into solar roadways by using resilient solar voltaic plates that cars can drive on. This technology, if it were to replace traditional roads in the USA, would by itself create 3 times more energy than the US uses. Furthermore, they would be easy to replace if damaged and could even recharge vehicles. Part of the problem of climate change was caused by people choosing to live outside of nature. In nature, everything has a use as well as being a part of a greater cycle of balance. In man's ignorance or arrogance, we chose to take ourselves out of the loop, taking what we want and discarding the rest, instead of recycling byproducts such as waste. The third factor is recycling. Let's talk about poop for a second. I know, no one wants to have this conversation, and women try to pretend it doesn't even exist. In reality, our waste is more than a mere byproduct, though. It is the literal building blocks of soil. Instead of just discarding our waste, we should instead be turning our waste into compost. This new compost can be used for many different purposes. Nature is the best recycler. It takes waste, turns it into soil, which in turn turns into new plants. We can do the same thing with the compost from our waste. Our numerous buildings can be retrofitted to have little farms inside that would bring an abundance of food in the form of fruits and vegetables, which would increase food security, decrease the need to import food, and eliminate waste. Excess compost that's not being used in food production could be used to create and maintain trees. Trees actually do a lot for us. They keep temperatures more stable, they reduce soil erosion, and they turn CO2 into oxygen. Buildings should incorporate tree ledges as seen in the slide, or anywhere else that they can. Trees would also reduce carbon taxes for businesses as they actually suck up CO2. One of the big problems of climate change is the desertification of the environment. This basically turns habitable land into uninhabitable land. After the systems of waste recycling have been in effect in the city for a couple of years, there will undoubtedly be excess compost. This compost could be used to plant trees in places that are suffering from desertification, in order to halt or even reverse the process. In conclusion, cities using the ideas outlined in this presentation would be far more sustainable and actually contribute to the environment instead of just taking. It is our choice whether to see cities as a burden against climate change or to see them as potential untapped resources. The future is in our hands. Thank you for watching.